Okay.
23rd Amendment, passed by Congress June 16th, 1960, ratified March 29, 1961. The district constituting the seat of government of the United States shall appoint in such manner as the Congress may direct. A number of electors of president and vice president equal to the whole number of senators and representatives in Congress to which the district would be entitled if it were a state, but in no event more than the least populous state. They shall be in addition to those appointed by the states, but they shall be considered for the purposes of the election of president and vice president to be electors appointed by a state, and they shall meet in the district and perform such duties as provided by the 12th article of amendment. And this is saying that the people of Washington, D.C. get to help vote for president. They still don't have representation in Congress, but they get to help vote for president. They cannot have more electors in Wyoming, but for the purposes of the Electoral College, Washington, D.C. is a state.
But only the Electoral College.
But only the Electoral College. Now, what would be fair is allowing territories representation. And what would be fair is if this applied to all territories. But Washington, D.C. is a good start.
Because they realize people live here now.
Yeah, I've said it before. When Washington, D.C. was initially proposed, nobody thought anyone was actually going to live there. And I think that that is based on the pure elitism of the Founding Fathers. Most of the Founding Fathers were upper class and had been upper class their whole lives. There were a few exceptions. Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, a handful of others. But by and large, these were men who didn't have to think about how anything actually worked. You were in your home and everybody took care of you. You did your gentlemanly duties and everybody took care of you. And you didn't have to think about, well, somebody has to build and maintain my home. And all of my servants need a place to live. And if I'm going to have food, then that requires, at the very least, markets. And if there are going to be markets, then all the people who run those markets need a place to live. And if they're living there, they can't afford to go somewhere else when Congress isn't in session. So they are just going to live where they live. And if there's a market, then that means there needs to be a community that supports all the people who work in the market. And you need doctors, and you need lawyers, and you need carpenters, and street sweepers. And you have to have this enormous system supporting a handful of guys in Congress and the president. You can't just have a town that is a ghost town when Congress isn't in session. And they never thought about the practical effects of what goes into having a place for them to be. And it took almost 200 years for Congress to really consider the needs of the people without whom Congress cannot work the way it currently does. And that's appalling. Because, yeah, there's a town in Virginia just across the Potomac. But a lot of people, especially in the early years when, as established many times, transportation was a bigger issue, were not going to commute from Virginia It was easier to just live in Washington, D.C. And the city is designed to have people live in it because the people who designed the city knew you have to have people living in a city for a city to work. But a lot of the people who live in Washington, D.C. as a city are poor. And a lot of them are people of color. And their needs are not getting met because it just doesn't occur to Congress that that's a thing that we need to fix. And I like to hope that that is something people are increasingly aware of, but I'm not holding my breath, especially because poor communities of color skew Democratic, and the current administration and the current Congress doesn't want their vote.
Off topic real fast. Apparently, my school doesn't get today off.
Huh.
Because apparently, one of the parents on Facebook is complaining about a 2-hour delay for school.
They should have today off. It's a federal holiday.
Weird. Back to topic.
Yeah, so this is a start. But it's not enough. And I'd like to see this entire amendment superseded as Washington, D.C. becomes a state. But it's not going to happen anytime soon. Honestly, I think that the only way to get Washington, D.C. to be a state right now is to get a grassroots campaign that I think if people in other states start campaigning for it, then it'll happen. But I think as long as it's just Washington, D.C. campaigning for it, it's not going to happen.
So would this be the smallest state if it ever became a state?
In terms of just land area, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Rhode Island, you have been replaced.
Yep. Because it's just one city. Let's see. The population of Washington, D.C. is currently a hair. Oh, yeah, they helpfully give me a chart on Google. The current population of Washington, D.C. is 678,972. The current population of Wyoming is 584,057. So Washington, D.C. has more people than Wyoming and does not have senators and does not have a representative. It has more residents than Vermont and Wyoming and is comparable with Delaware, Alaska, and several other states. So, yeah, they should be a state.
But at least they can vote for president now.
At least they can vote for president now.
They have some voice.
Yeah. It's depressing.
And only one slide, though.
Well, that's something.
I guess I say didn't care about the time limits here.
No, and it went through in less than a year. So that's something.
Right. So yep, three people, and they usually at least lately they've always voted blue.
Yeah. Voting history of Washington, D.C.
So the first one would have been the first election they would have participated in would have been LBJ.
Yeah, and they have always gone Democratic. The entire history.
Even during the Reagan sweep of 84?
Even during the Reagan sweep of 84, in 1984, 85.4% of the population of Washington, D.C. voted for Mondale.
So he had two states then, Washington and his home state.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No Republican has ever gotten an electoral vote from D.C., which is why it's not a state.